Hello everyone, this is Zags here with another edition of Animaniaugust. Finally, we get to the Kids WB era, the beginning of the end. So let's begin. First off, well, you know, Kids WB, with Kids WB's management, they moved the show from every weekday afternoons to Saturday mornings. And this is the first week to do so. And well, let's just say that there's going to be a lot of changes to this program. So, let's begin. The variable lines have returned. And of course, this episode has the variable line hydroplane, regarding which of course refers to a seaplane. This, of course, and of course, but before, of course, there's also the fact that we've got wisecracks by the stats has been replaced by we pay tons of income tax. So, that's interesting. Honestly, the figures is that, well, the YouTube mostly state that there's a team thing and stuff. We are roughly, let's see, um, well, some of the international does still have big plays of sex, but, well, there's definitely going to be a lot of interesting stuff. Of course, you know, the of course, and there's also the Meet Ralph and Dr. Scratches that say hell, hi to hell nurse introduced, which is interesting. Uh, well, and of course, the Ralph Dr. Scratches say hi to hell nurse clips were taken from previous episodes. So, yeah, that's interesting. Well, Super Strong Warner Siblings in a parody of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. After finishing the theme song, literally walking on the set, they parody Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And fun fact is that the word right is spoken a total of 12 times in this episode. And and of course there's a gag of a giant bug that crushes the Saban Entertainment headquarters. A a jab at the owners of the Power Rangers, which became ironic later on because Saban would later sell the brand to Disney, would later sell Power Rangers to Hasbro. So yeah, that all around it's a parody of Power Rangers, alright. Nutcracker Slappy. This, of course, is a parody of the classic play The Nutcracker. But it's been changed to a play that's literally about cracking nuts. Get it? Because there's squirrels and all that stuff. And, well, it's definitely, you know, and the Warners actually make a brief cameo in this one. And Slappy anyway walks off to the director during the middle of the mishaps that occurred during this play. So, yeah, that's next. Well, hold on, sold. Next up, we get to Wacko's New Gookie. This episode because, well, Wacko gets a new Gookie, which is an insane face he makes. He tries it on Yakko, Michelangelo, who returns from Hurt on the Ceiling, Bob Hope, Catherine Hepburn, Larry King. And they all say it isn't a Gookie. And Wacko decides that, well, his previous Gookie was fine already. He didn't really need a new Gookie. So, well, went back to his old Gookie. It's also funny how the network is CCM, which is a parody of CNN, which ironically Warner Bros. Will later acquire. Of course. Although I really do like this one. It really establishes Wacko's character, really deconstructs Wacko's character really nicely. Next up, A Quake, A Quake. To the tune of Schumann's Happy Farmer, the Warner Bros. And the Warner Sisters sing a song all about the 1994 Northridge earthquake. This one is definitely you really have to have a morbid sense of humor to really find this hilarious. The Warners are super stoked about the earthquake of Northridge, California. And really, they just, they just, they just, like, lyrics, just so cheerful, happy-go-lucky lyrics regarding such a catastrophe it's just funny in sort of a it's a darkly comedic way, like, it's really darkly comedic, and I really do like it for just how darkly just comedic this whole segment is. I just find it funny. Next up, of course, we get on to episode 71. This has the new variable line, Money Down the Drainy, a reference to Wyatt Earp, a box office failure film from 1994. This, of course, well, Wyatt Earp, of course, was a film released, a Western film released by Warner Bros. Themselves that lost a good amount of money in the box office. So, yeah, this is one of those times where they attack Warner Bros. And because, really, it's just funny how they, attack Warner Bros. Because that's funny. Next is Variety Speak. Another short that was aired in widescreen. Claiming that this could have been a theatrical release. This is actually produced in 4:3, but was propped into widescreen when it actually aired. And this is the second time this is made in a letterbox format. It never premiered at theaters. I don't know if it was intended for theaters or not, or if it was just in widescreen just to be in widescreen, but either way, it's definitely interesting to see, because it's a parody of Variety magazine and how they have weird lingo. All in all, it's not really that funny if you don't know what Variety is. I mean, I don't really know, but it's definitely an interesting song. It is kind of catchy, and that's really just cool, the thing of it. 3 tenures and we're out. Another Scrappy Squirrel sword. This time, I'm excited about seeing a baseball game at the Dodger Stadium. But when they get there, they instead see a concert featuring a parody of the 3 tenures. And, and the thing is that, yeah, the 3 tenors, well, 3 tenors were an opera group that sang from 1990 to 2003. Well, I guess someone at the studio really liked the song, or there must have been some controversy, I don't know. But either way, it's definitely an interesting episode, honestly. It's interesting, alright. Bingo. Dr. Scratch Sniff hosts a bingo game. Unfortunately, the only one in attendance is Wacko, who doesn't know how to play. This, of course, they really do like playing the team of Wacko and Scratch and Sniff, which I get. Like, the characters are basically opposites. And really, Scratch and Sniff serves as a grief foil to Wacko. I mean, really serves as a grief foil to all the Warners, but Wacko is the one that really shines the best in terms of foiled. Ooh. Of course, Wacko naturally can't seem to know how to play. Oh no, it's a fine episode. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's a fun episode. Not really too interesting, but fine. Next up is the finale. The three tenors return to sing a shortened version of the Animaniacs theme. Singing only the first chorus, a modified version of the second chorus, including a brief return appearance by the Pinky and the Brain, and the final chorus. This is, of course, you know, very. And the variable line in this is spaghetti stainy. If you're wondering what the variable line for this specific iteration is, it's spaghetti stainy. So if you asked, well, it's spaghetti stainy. That's the variable line in this. Next up is episode 72. Which, of course, was starts with a previously on Animaniacs segment, which is a parody of the previously on Blank segments on live action serials. But this, of course, shows previous clips that weren't shown before. It's a parody. It intentionally shows some very dramatic and, even by anime standards, comically exaggerated segments. And, oh no, it's a pretty solid startup segment. Next up is Dot's line. No pain, no gainy. The variable line of this is no pain, no gainy. A pun on the phrase, no pain, no gain. Which, and of course, well, if I just like, essentially they brought back the variable lines because for the second half, around the second half of Fox Kids, is they started recycling variable lines, and now they've brought them back. Right, the production of new variable lines for the episodes, which is interesting. It is particularly interesting to see the variable lines return. But of course, now move on to the episode 72's first proper segment, The Deuce is Wild. The Warners are now pestering Sherlock Holmes himself and Watson to join their scavenger hunt. The items, there's a lot of items in the scavenger hunt list, like Princess Diana, a leotard, Prince Charles in a tabloid, a happy postal worker, Ward's career, batteries, Lusitania, Marlon Brando, and of course, most ironically and hilariously, a funny episode of Bonkers. Basically, Warner's saying that their main competitor, the Animaniacs, Bonkers, is not funny, and giving a jab at their competitor Disney. Next up is Rest in Pieces. Walter Wolf had passed away, and but Walter Wolf isn't really dead. The funeral was a setup. Walter Wolf plotted his revenge on Skippy's world, and Skippy as well, while he was at it. And of course, there's a lot more bonkers gags, like Slappy saying Skippy is dumb for watching Bonkers. And this is also the first time that Nathan Ruger's voice for Skippy is pitched up, as between Fox Kids and Kids WB runs of the episodes, Nathan Ruger got puberty, forcing Skippy's voice to be pitched up in order to compensate. You and Me. This is a song about the United Nations, done by the tune of Down by the Riverside. This is the second segment did not feature any spoken dialogue, and merely just singing. The first being Yakko's Universe, which of course, as we all know, was featured in the show twice. This, of course, is a song about the UN, a peace treaty group of a lot of countries that's based in New York City. And naturally, being in New York City, one of the good feathers, in this case Pesto, makes a cameo near the end of the segment. And honestly, it's honestly fine. It's not really the most well-known show, but it's interesting. Episode 73. Penny Laney. This is a build-up to the first segment, as this is a Beatles reference. Although they say Penny Lane, it's actually parodying the footage parodies Abbey Road. Anyway, another notable thing is that, well, being the first episode to be produced after the show's release, this is the first time that they are aware they can poke fun at their fans. And they really do this in this episode. They really, really do it. Like, and it just turns just to be hilarious. And they do it just to hilarious extremes, like, very funny, hilarious extremes. So, well, without further ado, let's get into the first segment. A Hard Day's Warners. A parody of the classic Beatles film, A Hard Day's Night, which is almost scene for scene, actually, of the opening. The Warners try to avoid the running, screaming fans, one of whom is a cameo of Elmira at Comic-Con. And funnily enough, is that unlike the Beatles film where most of the fans were girls, it said in this, most of the fans are characters of the show's fan base. And, well, we're going to be seeing more of that later on in this edition of Animaniaugust. And, well, yeah, it's all around a very solid parody. And really showing that Animaniacs is in touch with its audience. Next up is Good Idea, Bad Idea. Good idea. Buying a pair of shoes on sale. Bad idea. Buying a parachute on sale. Well, this, good idea, bad idea. Yep, this is another one of good idea, bad idea segments. Of course, being based on puns of how pair of shoes and parachute sound similar. It definitely seems like, that, that seems like a leftover from the initial production run of Animaniacs rather than produced for Kids WB. And, let's move on to this next segment. Give me a break. Slappy really wants to get some rest and relaxation, but Slappy insists that they should go to this, quote, mega awesome movie that is being shot on stage. The title is a parody of Kit Kat's slogan, "Give me a break of that Kit Kat bar." And there's a lot of movie parodies in this. Parodies Die Hard, Forrest Gump, Speed, Passenger 57, The Nightmare of 20,000 Feet at the Twilight Zone, and Joel's. And Slappy also mentions, while delirious, Daisy Duck and Huey, Dewey, and Louie, which are of course some of the Disney ducks. And she also mentions Tony the Tiger from Frosted Flakes. There's also a clip of Wacko saying he's got a bubble coming home, implying that he's about to fart in the bathtub. Good idea, bad idea. Good idea. Climbing a mountain. Bad idea. Climbing a mountain, lion. This is it. This is the last of the good idea, bad idea segments. This is also probably the second for the initial production run. And it's a shame that we never got any more, not even in the reboot. Because even though it only lasted for the initial production run, most likely, these segments are hilarious. And, this marks the end of good idea, bad idea. And also, Tombo Day's segments as a whole in Animaniacs, although Tombo Day would later appear in an episode of Pinky the Brain as himself, recording a good idea, bad idea exhibit. And Tombo Day would also be the narrator of, we'll get to that later. Please, please, please get a Life Foundation. Yeah. As soon as you thought the last good idea, bad idea was set in, well, we get this one, and this one just completely rips the fans to shreds in the best way possible. A fan's on the computer nitpicking about the show's flaws and animation errors. And, and there's just a whole lot of funny gags. Like, really, it definitely is one of the episodes that's aged the best. With the internet growing since 1995, this is still as relevant as ever. There's still people who make the same nitpicky points. And really, this is just really just iconic. And, this is definitely a very iconic episode. And the title card, of course, is intentionally misspelled. That's cool. And now for the final episode we're going to cover in today's episode of Animaniaugust, the Tiger. So we start out with the Tiger Prince in a parody of The Lion King, where Yakko replaces Rafiki. The Tiger Kingdom is singing a song called "The Surprises of Life." No rewards for guessing what this is parodying. And of course, despite the tigers being only in Asia and not Africa, the setting's still obviously African. And of course, it ends with Yakko dropping the tiger and saying, "What? I thought tigers are supposed to land on their feet." As you can see, there's a pattern. A lot more pop culture based episodes with Kids WB, with just stuff that was barely a couple years old and even younger. Of course, the variable line of the theme song is Yakko saying, which has already become a running gag by this point. And really, it's definitely been used a lot. With just a lot of, the character, what Yakko used a lot. Just thinking of, just, you know, this is originated from a verbal tick from voice actor Rob Paulsen. And, Yakko, of course, this segues feeds out into the first part of all the words in the English language. Famous figure skating narrator Dick Bunn, who is voicing himself alongside Dot, provide commentary throughout Yakko's performance of all the words in the English language. And obviously, not all the words are listed. And really, it is a parody of just how really gimmicky Yakko's World was, and it's definitely a parody of just Yakko's World overall. And how and even set to the tune of the Mexican hat dance. We then, well, of course, he sings all the words of the letter A that he could possibly sing, and of course, we get to our segment, The Kid in the Lid, a parody of The Cat in the Hat. Instead of a cat in the hat, we got a kid in the lid, which is Yakko Warner. Yakko is nice enough to invite his siblings over. Thing 1 and Thing 2. In this case, Wacko and Dot. And they decide, of course, to damage the kid's house for fun. Because, well, it's a cat in the hat parody starring the Warners. What else do you expect? And the family at the end is eating green ham, a parody of another Dr. Seuss tale, Green Eggs and Ham. All in all, a solid parody of this classic book. And really, it's definitely one of the better parodies of the Kids WB era, especially since it's a parody of something older. Now we get to part 2 of all the words in the English language. Yakko, of course, continues singing through the alphabet and gets to the letter L. He's starting to get tired and causes some slowdowns upon singing parts of all the words in the English language. He's really struggling through it, and you can definitely tell that he's really just having trouble really singing the words even by this point. And yeah, Echo also getting really, really tired, even by, of course, at this point. And we move on to Method to Her Madness. In the 1950s, Skippy, who talks like a beatnik and is somehow alive even back then, attends a New York actor's studio, which Slappy scoffs at. There's a lot of gags relating to the decade. There's most notably a gag of Skippy reading lines, encouraging Brandos to get some lines for an offer can't refuse from Godfather, Stella from Streetcar Named Desire, and the contender scene from On the Waterfront. But there's also appearances from Marilyn Monroe, Jack Nicholson, among other famous celebrities at the time. Honestly, besides the obvious continuity error that's just so obvious of a whole, it's fine. It's good. And finally, all the words in the English language part 3. Jacko's now at the very, very final letter Z. He sings slower, almost out of energy. And then, as soon as he sings the word Zaire, which is used to be a name of a country in Africa and was one of the many countries that Yakko sang in Yakko's World, he collapses on stage out of exhaustion. All in all, this is definitely a very solid start to what we're gonna come to expect in the Kids WB seasons. Pinky the Brain Fun got their own spin-off, and most of the interstitial segments have been retired, so there's definitely going to be a heavy reliance on the Warners and Slappy Squirrel from here on out. So, with a new era starting, and I'll see you again next time. Goodbye, nurses.